Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in the world of comic books and entertainment. Across 5 decades, I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in streaming, in movies, in comic books, we are covering it and discussing it right here. Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. We are all about comic books and pop culture and all the different platforms that they pop up in, the evolution of the actual form over the course of many episodes of this show across 5 years. I have taken you on my personal journey, how I ripped comic books off spinner racks that looked just like this when I was 7 years old. No, I didn't rip them off, but I did literally, in my excitement, like almost tear them off the spinner racks at the newsstand, at the liquor store, at the 7-Eleven. I've been very forthcoming in all of my different distribution centers when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, riding my skateboard, riding my bike around Southern California, all the different places. To this day, if I get a comic book that I got during that age, I picked it up 7, 8, 9, 10, boom, and beyond. But even back then, I know exactly where I purchased it. I know exactly where, what time of day. It is such a thrill. It is such a jolt because comics just spark something in me. It sparks something in me that I have hopefully continued to share with the rest of you in my work that I've created across 5 decades. I got hired in the 80s, the 90s, going to the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s, 5 decades, 40 years, 5,000 pages of my own artwork, then umpteen thousands of the books that I have written and produced, published. Just such a blast. Love the comics industry. Love talking the comics industry with you. Love talking about those old spinner racks. We have covered from the evolution from the spinner racks to the comic book store. I remember when the comic book store started popping up in my neighborhood. Do you remember? Some of you are as old or older than I am, and you do remember the evolution from the newsstand to the comic book store. That stores dedicated to comic books were popping up in your cities. Maybe one, maybe two, a few. It was so exciting to go, this is so much better than just a spinner rack. There's back issues, there's posters. There were limited, toys and statues back then. There were medallions, there were coins. I mean, these are the early days of collectibles and collectability. We span all of the comics universe, and we're going to touch on all manner of different eras today as we discuss our topic, which is we're going to land on fact or favorite. But I am your host, Rob Liefeld. Thank you for listening to us on whatever platform it is, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on our new YouTube channel that we popped up on 3 months. I think we're 3 months on YouTube, going strong, figuring it out. We have been on the dedicated podcast networks of Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple for now 5 years running. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for interacting with us. You guys fuel this show, and in many ways, you create so many of the topics that we discuss. If you're watching on the Spotify video application, or if you're watching on YouTube and you're like, it's dark in there. Hey, I got up in the wee hours of the morning to pull this episode off because we got to keep getting these episodes out there. We got to keep putting these topics out there, getting the topics on the table, discussing them with you. And I just want to thank you once again. Cannot thank you enough for fueling this show. The thing about this show, Robservations, it's funny in regards to podcasts. So I do this for fun. I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and sometimes those podcasters remind me that is their living, that is their livelihood. They make their, they pay their nut, their rent, whatever it is, provided for their family by podcasting. I make comics for a living. I write and draw and create stories, and that is how I have provided for my family, put them through school, bought kids cars, gone for nice meals, big vacations, bought houses. Okay, that is how I did it through comic books. Podcasting is just kind of my side hustle. I dig doing it. I dig the enthusiasm that you guys bring to it. I try and give as much of that enthusiasm back to you with the topics, with the discussions, and with the history of the comic book industry. When I say that I was 7 years old, that puts me squarely at 1974. I have some memories prior to that. There are comics that I absolutely remember grabbing at the grocery store. Yes, the grocery stores were great distribution centers for comic books back then, but it wasn't until 74 that it became a dedicated habit. And by the fall of 1974, I am 8 years old, and there is no looking back. And as I've covered, because I haven't mentioned it in a while, but I'm hearkening back to this time, which was some of you in my age bracket, your parents would sit down on the couch, mainly your dad, who had a bunch of change in his pockets, and he'd watch sports or the evening news, and we're talking Walter Cronkite, and I mean, we're going way back in the let's call it the annals of time. We love to call it the annals of time, the annals of time. And my dad, his change would just shake out. I really don't think it was coming from my mom, but when it came time to go to the distribution center of the 7-Eleven, the liquor store, the grocery store, I would go digging in the couches and in the behind the couch pads, in the seams. Hey, there's a quarter, there's a dime, there's a couple nickels, and comics were 20 to 25 cents when I started out. So I could rub those together, baby, and make comic books out of those shekels. Okay, the couple quarters gets me a couple comic books, and comic books had become 1,000% my addiction, and they were available at the grocery store, at the liquor store, at the 7-Eleven, at the market, and it was just a nonstop. I've covered how I had to hide them away from the prying eyes of my disapproving parents early on, until they finally gave way and just realized the happiness and, as I mentioned, the escape that comic books provided me. And I hope that the knowledge that I bring from 7 years old on, from 1974 on, can provide you some escape with this show. We are having a blast as we just continue. Every time I think, well, maybe there isn't something to talk about, I realize how topical we could make the show, and we're going to mix some topicality into today's episode while also discussing some themes, some reactions that I've seen over different subjects that have been discussed on the internet, some by professionals with fandom at large. And when I say fandom at large, I am fandom at large. I am part of Star Trek fandom, comic book fandom, Star Wars fandom. I am part of Van Halen fandom. Okay, I mean, you name it. We're all fans of something somewhere. At some time, I'm a Laker fan. I'm a NFL fan. I'm a Rams fan. I'm an NBA fan. I'm a Dodgers fan. So we all are scraping up against participating in fandom in some way or another, pretty much every part of our lives, because we all have stuff that we like and that we share. And with comic books, I was asked a question. I did a dedicated episode on my Mount Rushmore of comic book artists. I think when the question was asked, it was creators, but it was received to me by artists, and I think when we posted it was on artists. Now, I'm all over social media. A lot of these interactions and these questions that I'm being asked are being posted over on my Instagram account at Rob Liefeld, ROBLIEFELD. It has a blue check so that you can differentiate me from the sham accounts, okay? And I was asked, and we've been posting more interactive content. I have a new team led by what I call the boss man, Mr. Scott. Thank you, Mr. Scott. You stood me up, you dusted me off, and off we go. And we're now being more interactive with all the content that we're sharing and creating and generating. But one of the Mount Rushmore questions, and I did an entire episode 3 years ago on Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore, as you know, has 4 heads. They do it for sports. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks? Who's on your Mount Rushmore of point guards? Who's on your Mount Rushmore of linebackers, right? Pitchers, whatever. It covers so many different topics. Well, for me, when it comes to Mount Rushmore, that I'm going to slow it down, and I'm going to tell you that when I'm on the phone with my peer group, as I've said, and yes, that could mean anybody from Dan Frega to a Todd McFarlane to a Marat Michaels, guys who I did comics with at that time. When I'm talking to Danny Mickey or Norm Ratman, two inker extraordinaire, finishers, embellishers, it's the kind of stuff that will come up. Uh, Topics about comic books, and with all of those names I just mentioned to you, they're going to really the topics are gonna the stuff that we're circulating is about artwork. It's about the creation of the pictures, because the pictures are why comic books exist. If it's not pictures, it's a novel. And I am not doing a podcast about a novel. I'm doing a podcast about comic books. And you shouldn't be surprised. I've seen him at many different panels. Todd McFarlane leans into this entire this exact notion. I lean into this notion, and no less than who I believe is the most successful person in the history of the comic book medium, no, Mr. Robert Kirkman. And I would love for someone to try to debate that with me. Okay, little sidebar. If you're trying to imitate a career right now, if there's a career that you want to be inspired by, that you want to look at and go, I want to be that guy. How is it not Robert Kirkman? How is it not Robert Kirkman? Invincible, Walking Dead, those shows that he has managed to push through, find life, get them in front of your eyeballs, and you have no idea how difficult that can be for everybody. He has punched through multiple times, and these are his two biggest. You guys, I'm deluged, like when I'm watching sports and when I'm watching just random movies on a movie channel, I'm getting deluged with ads for all the different Walking Dead. Does every single character have a show now? Does every single character have their own spinoff? It seems that way. It's a testament to the incredible success of Mr. Robert Kirkman. And then the Invincible cartoon, which has just, with season 3, season 1, it got it out there. People were sniffing around. They were checking it out. There was some buzz. There was some word of mouth. Season 3 just blew up and went completely bonkers. And the success of Invincible now is literally threatening the success that he achieved with Walking Dead, which was the top success you could achieve. It's easy to talk about stuff that impresses you when you watch it unfold before your eyes and you actually like all the people involved. You know, the entire Invincible team are, as you've seen when you encounter them, Corey Walker, Robert Kirkman, Ryan Otley, are really fun, friendly guys who love comic books, and you know that they love comic books. They're out there, they're interacting with you, they're touring, they're in stores, they're in conventions, they're online, they're on social media, and they are interacting with you, telling you how much they love comic books. No less than Robert Kirkman, the guy whose career you should be aspiring to. He owns his library. He said he was inspired by what we did with Image Comics. And you know, as much as I'm proud of the library that I own, and as much as I'm impressed by the library that Todd owns, and the library that Mark Silvestri owns, and Eric Larson owns, and those have been eclipsed at this moment by the success of Robert Kirkman. It's okay to say it, you know. And Robert will tell you, it's about the pictures. It's about the pictures. He loves comic books because there's drawings. Okay, as as Mike Myers, who sat in a bathtub as Simon on Saturday Night Live. I do drawings. Who remembers that? Did I just date myself? I go Google it. Hello everyone, I'm Simon and I do drawings. Okay, comic books are about the drawings. Okay, and the different artists and the different drawings and the different depictions of your characters are the stuff that gets ingrained in us, and services our passion for this medium. And when I go to my Mount Rushmore, I've got to put the guys who I believe tower before everybody else. It's not my favorites. There are some of them that are my favorites, but two of them are not my favorites. And I'm just using my own example. Two of them are not my favorites, but I believe that the quality of their work, and I believe that the success that they've achieved has to be recognized in a master class. And there's master class. And then there's everybody else. My Mount Rushmore is Jack Kirby, John Buscema, Neil Adams, and Steve Ditko. We've discussed John Buscema, and I'm dedicated to speaking more about him. But you really cannot run away from the impact of his work on comic books. And he worked 99.9% of his career making art and comics for Marvel Comics. He was a staple. He was a giant pillar of their production and of their success. His Avengers, that run that he did with Roy Thomas, Tom Palmer is gorgeous. Okay, incredible Black Panther stories in there. Incredible, just isolated solo stories. The Vision, Ultron. Black Panther, the Red Wolf. Yes, there's a character called the Red Wolf, and I went bonkers for him when I discovered him when I was a kid. The Masters of Evil. John Buscema's run on that Fantastic Four is great. I shared with you some of the Galactus stuff that he did when he was on the Fantastic Four, but he also did great Doctor Doom stories and covered like all of the different Rogues Gallery, Annihilus, the Negative Zone. John Buscema, the mastery of form storytelling, the way that he took over how to draw the comics the Marvel way, gave us a Bible to how not only to do it, but to do it more dramatically, the Marvel way, which means more dramatically. And I believe in my age, I took it and made it more extreme. My studio was called Extreme. And I said, how do I contribute to this medium and build upon what John Buscema is doing? And I realized I need to do more of the extreme version of the gesture that he says is the one that I should be leaning into. And that's what I did. I leaned into the extreme version of those gestures, the extreme version of the drama that was being created. And along the way, there were other people. It's the greatest compliment I was ever given by Mark Silvestri in 1992 when he handed me copies of Cyberforce #1. He says, "I'm on to you, man. I'm on to you, man." He said, I've been checking out your stuff. I'm picking up your tricks," because it's tricks of the trade. And I saw how much bigger Mark had been going. And I saw gestures in Ripclaw and those opening pages of Cyberforce. Now, of course, what I can't replicate is Mark's incredible illustration ability, his ability to draw. And if I was to replicate it, then I'd be in essence copying him. And the one thing I've tried to do is do my own thing. And some of the guys that I like and some of the guys that we're going to discuss today that fall into favorites do their own thing. They do that twerk, that tweak, that thing, that stylistic tick that sets them apart of everybody else. And most of us don't want to draw like just the other guy. There have been guys that they are sometimes wrongfully tagged journeymen in the artistic community, and they were during the time that I was growing up. I'm thinking of a Rich Buckler who gave me endless amounts of just endless amounts of entertaining panels, images, pages, comic books. He was the artist when I came on Fantastic Four. I did not know that he was imitating so much of the Jack Kirby work. And when people pointed it out to me years later, I didn't care. It didn't make those books any less that he mixed and matched some Jack Kirby gestures, some storytelling, along with some John Buscema. Some guys will tell you that that's what they were encouraged to do. But Fantastic Four 147, 148, 150, 151, all of these books that were engaging me, 1974, 1975, he would also do issues of the Avengers, all of that stuff. Guys, I was all the way in, and I didn't need to be told, but he's taking that from somewhere else. It doesn't matter. I spoke earlier in an earlier episode of the production quality of comic books, that sometimes you just gotta finish it. It may not be complete, but it needs to be finished because it needs to be sent to the printer. It needs to get into your hands. So there are guys that maybe don't bring as much new to the table. Rich Buckler went on to DC Comics. He gave me All-Star Squadron. He gave me many issues of DC Comics Presents with Superman teaming up with people like Shazam and multiple other incredible team-ups that I just totally dig. He did a giant-sized Treasury edition of Superman and Shazam, and I just loved it. And at that point, he was no longer pulling just from Jack Kirby. He was pulling from Neil Adams, and I didn't care. The stuff looked great. It's comic books. They're stories. They're images. They're pictures. I hold Rich Buckler in great regard in the fact that he entertained me and captured my imagination at a young age. And when I go back and I revisit those books, I actually get even more excited. I have more respect for what he was accomplishing. He fashioned his work after people and made that resemble the Jack Kirbys, the John Buscemas. Some of us stylistically wanted to move into our own arena so that you could identify us, because all the people that I liked, the people that I loved, the John Burns, the George Perez, the Jim Starlin, the Walt Simonson, the Howard Chaykin, those people had very distinct styles. Michael Golden, Art Adams, distinct styles. I could tell as I approached the whether it was the spinner rack right here, or whether it was the newsstand shelves, or then the direct market, I knew immediately upon seeing their work that's an Art Adams, that's a Howard Chaykin, that's a Walt Simonson. I was chasing styles. I like guys with styles because styles meant they were mixing it up. I see all the influences in Walt Simonson. I see all the influences in Howard Chaykin. It doesn't make my love for their work any different. Identifying styles is fun, and we've talked about it many times. One of the things that Art Adams did that I love so much is he mixed a certain blend of styles. When Barry Windsor Smith was happening, he was mixing a certain mix of styles. Toppy, or some say Toppy, Toppi. He is a giant influence on Walt Simonson. And when you see it, you'll think you're looking at Walt Simonson. And that's okay. What Walt took from him and then later on mixed it and matched it with Jack Kirby, which I don't think anybody saw coming. That's a very unique recipe. That is style. And we love style. And I love style. And I tried to create a style that would hit on different factors. And I speak of creating styles because I knew my buddies, my peers. Eric Larson was formulating a style. He didn't want you to think you were picking up a John Buscema comic or a Jack Kirby comic. He wanted you to see and feel that you were picking up an Eric Larson comic book. But if we're all eventually taking from some of these sources again and again and again, if Rich Buckler is taking from Jack Kirby and Rob Liefeld is taking from Jack Kirby and Michael Golden is taking from Jack Kirby and Keith Giffen is taking from Jack Kirby and Eric Larson is taking from Jack Kirby and Ledron is taking from, or Ledron, brilliant artist, taking from Jack Kirby, then I guess we owe something to Jack Kirby. So he's up on the Mount Rushmore and he would be my number one and there would be no argument whatsoever. Did I mention that John Buscema also has a quote saying he looked at a lot of Jack Kirby? He just, when in doubt, would look at Jack for how to figure out a page or how to be inspired. Well, John's also on my Mount Rushmore, but John incorporated other elements into his work as well. But Jack Kirby has impacted everyone, even my favorites, even John Byrne. People said, Rob, you have Jack Kirby, you have Neil Adams, you have Steve Ditko, you have John Buscema on your Mount Rushmore. But we know, because you talk about it, because you share, you're always buying John Byrne artwork. How is John Byrne not on your Mount Rushmore? John Byrne is my favorite. John Byrne is my favorite. Guys, I may prefer a smash burger, okay, from a little hole-in-the-wall joint in Orange, California, just off the Orange Circle. But I know that's not better than the finest filet mignon, okay? I know it. I know that it is not the finest cut and curated piece of meat. But damn if it's not my favorite. And I want that smash burger pretty much for every meal. I can't have it. That would be very bad for my health. My doctor would be mad. But I prefer, my favorite is the smash burger with some grilled onions and a whole lot of ketchup and a pinch of mustard. That's my favorite. Now, when it comes to French fries, there's another joint that gives me my favorite French fries, okay? And that's my favorite. I don't even like their burger, but I like their fries. We all have our favorites. I had a dude at my church who, shout out to you, Matt, you made videos comparing Taco Bell and Del Taco. If you don't have Del Taco, they have been a staple of my youth. Del Taco is the rival taco fast food chain to Taco Bell out here since life began for me. Okay, they were the joints that my parents were running us through, and he was comparing, and there was incredible brushback. My wife and I, we are Del Taco kind of purists. I had a lot of Taco Bell. I was a big Taco Bell guy, late 80s, late 90s. And I'm going to tell you right now, my wife and I were off the beaten path. We were driving around and doing some errands, and we were like, we just got to eat. We pulled into one of those joint Taco Bell, Kentucky Fried Chicken merger places. You've all seen them. And guys, we were exposed to the Taco Bell Cantina menu. And we may now be reconsidering our favoritism of Del Taco over Taco Bell because of this Cantina menu. Damn, that food is good. That food is good. Now, is it the best curated food? Can I go to a better, are there better Mexican restaurants? Did I have what I believe some of the finest Mexican food in Mexico when I was there in Cabo for my son's wedding in March? Yes. But do I kind of prefer the Cantina chicken quesadilla at this time, at this recording? I do. That's my favorite right now, okay? And it has eclipsed my love of Del Taco, which has been my preferred for like the last 25 years. They edged out Taco Bell. So what are we even talking about here? Are we talking quality or are we talking favorite? So once again, I think we all know that maybe the most high-minded 5-star version of something, we recognize the excellence in that goes into making that. But sometimes we just like the other lines that the other guy gives us. And in this case, with John Byrne has always been my version of today's Taco Bell Cantina menu chicken quesadilla. Okay, that John Byrne style. I told you, dude did a deal with the devil. For about a 9-year period, he put out artwork that was a cut above everybody's. I mentioned it with Dave Finch. We'd be like, when John Byrne draws the Hulk, that's how the Hulk should look. When John Byrne draws Captain America, that's how Captain America should look. Let me tell you, if John Byrne's style is primarily a synthetic blend of Jack Kirby and Neil Adams, how are they not on Mount Rushmore? How can I knock them out? Without Neil Adams and Jack Kirby, there is no John Byrne. And then, honestly, when he pivoted over to his Fantastic Four run, he brought a thicker ink line, brush line, to much of his pages that was a little more Steve Ditko-y. Okay, and so honestly, John Byrne reflects a tremendous dose of. I mean, I'm going to go 40 Jack Kirby, 40 Neil Adams, 20 Steve Ditko, and then you have John Byrne. So 3 of those guys are on my Mount Rushmore. Okay, huge amounts of Neil Adams are to be found, especially in the earliest. You go back to the Iron Fist stuff, the earliest stuff, the Marvel team up stuff that John Byrne was doing, and he was really, especially also in essential issues of some of the key X-Men stuff, especially if Neil Adams had drawn it, if he had drawn the Living Monolith as he had. And John was reflecting that in Marvel Team Up. If he had drawn Magneto and John was reflecting that in X-Men. So my Mount Rushmore are kind of the masters of the craft, and my placing of them reflects that. So Steve Ditko draws one of, if not my favorite, Spider-Man. Todd McFarlane is up there. Todd McFarlane is also up there. There are issues of Todd that I like better than any issue of Spider-Man, although the Spider-Man covers and some of the key images and storytelling, and people do not give the storytelling that Steve Ditko put forth enough respect. There was a guy 10 years ago, it was a decade ago, and he was kind of a novice artist, and he went on this giant rant on how after studying Steve Ditko's work, which he had to do for assignment, he just didn't respect it. He just didn't think he was that good. And I was like, man, if I could reach through the screen and slap you, I would slap you. That is heresy, okay? People sleep on Steve Ditko and his excellence. I did not have a chance to go out and rummage through because, like I said, the sun has been rising the entirety of this episode as it gets a little brighter and brighter in here. But I did have my Steve Ditko Doctor Strange issue that Spider-Man guest starred in, and just his Spider-Man, no matter what he was doing, always had this tremendous fluidity. And it is that fluidity that I first and foremost associate Spider-Man with. These Steve Ditko images that I'm sharing with you show, and again, the face, the eyes. Steve Ditko's Spider-Man was just, I mean, there it is. Look at this. Look, just he's got this tremendous weight to him, but he's a little slinky. Okay? And look at that beautiful rim lighting. And so Steve Ditko, I mean, he creates Spider-Man. He puts him in all these incredible poses, and there's just even seeing him bounce around on these pages. I'm going to get you what issue this is before the end of the show. Okay, seeing Steve Ditko's Spider-Man, right there. That look at that. I mean, the Todd used to say, when I draw Spider-Man, I draw him. He said wonky. I draw him. I draw him wonky. He's wonky. Okay, wonky is where Steve Ditko's Spider-Man lives. Okay, this is where Steve Ditko's Spider-Man lives and breathes. He goes into this other realm. So, guys, I guess this is from the Amazing Spider-Man Annual. Number 2. That's what I'm showing you. Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 2. It's in the Doctor Strange Collected Edition, it was the one nearest to my shelf when I popped on here today. But even and what I'm going to show you. So here's the profile of Spider-Man right here. Look at the creepy eyes. Nobody did the creepy eyes, even who followed Ditko for the longest time. But you can see even there, Steve Ditko is respecting what would be a normal bridge of a nose by where he places the edge of the nose and drags it down to where the chin would be. Okay, so focus on that for this. Now, the thing I love about Todd McFarlane, and we've talked about this and we've laughed about this. He knows this. I have said this to him as recently as 2 weeks ago. You guys, you'll notice right here, okay, on this bridge, that bridge is a little higher than what Steve Ditko would have over here. And it's almost as if when Todd had Spider-Man Peter Parker put on the Spider-Man helmet, when he did that, it was almost as if the face went to liquid form. I'm guilty of doing the exact same thing with my masked characters, whether it is Snake Eyes or Deadpool. That suddenly the shape of the mask, we don't want it. Okay, do I believe that Peter Parker's nostril is right here? Do I believe Peter Parker has a 1-inch nose? Do I believe? No, but I don't care. Because, and wait for it, here's where style comes in. It looks cool. This looks cool. And you know what made the image, guys? What separated us from the pack? We drew stuff that looked cool. And you know why? Because you, and you told us so. You told us so. You showed up. You rocketed our comics. And there are people, let's call them the art police. And they're very sad. The art police people are very sad. They're the people that whine and complain. Okay, art police, let's go, art police. On some level, does Peter Parker's face shape jet out in this way? I can get you a profile of Todd's Spider-Man, okay? This is style. This may be my favorite Spider-Man drawings ever, but I can't put Todd above Steve Ditko on the Mount Rushmore because Steve introduced all of these different components with which then Todd could play with. Oh, we're going to get to Romita Sr. I hear you. My ear hears you. You've made yourself known. I hear you. Just dwell on this. Look how badass and cool that looks. But is that, wait for it. Oh, we're going to say it. We're going to say it on the Raw Life of the Raw Observations. Is it anatomically correct? No, it's not. It's not anatomically correct. His face is not anatomically correct. That is not where Peter Parker's nose. But when the Spider-Man mask goes on, that's what I want, baby. I want cool. I want it to look rad. Okay? And Todd did that. And this is just a savage, badass. Oh my gosh. The storytelling. I tell you, this is beyond, just beyond vicious. The storytelling and these profiles that Todd would do of Spider-Man. And for those of you listening, I am holding up pages. I'm flipping randomly through Spider-Man 1 through 5 Torment, the Lizard, Kraven the Hunter. So forgive me for not telling that to you sooner. That is what I am sharing with you, the Torment saga that Todd just had the very best time with. And I'm going to get to Peter Parker here pretty quick because look, and we see it once again here when all those teeth from the Lizard, I'm showing a panel, are up against. Did the mask smash his face when you put the mask on? Did his here's mine. Well, wait. So does the mask completely smash my face? No. But it looks cool because it's comic books, because it's cartoons, because we're not adhering to the laws of reality on paper. Why would we? Because in the words of Pee Wee Herman, take a photo. It'll last longer. Okay, art police, take a photo. Take a photo. If that's what you crave, take a photo. These guys are so funny. It's so great. But, because Todd understands the human face. Look at Mary Jane. That is a very natural, brow, bridge of the nose, mouth, okay? I'm pretty sure if Mary Jane was to put the Spider-Man mask on, boom, it's all going to liquid form. I do it with Deadpool. I do this. We saw this. It felt like John Byrne and at times Steve Ditko were doing this as they got further into the depictions of these characters. I believe this is a stylistic choice. Is there room for the nose right here where the top of the lip is and the eyes are going to be? That's a tough one to pull off if we pull that mask off. But why would we pull the mask off? Why would we do that? Because this looks cool, okay? There's facts of how things work and look, and then there's favorites. And favorites often fall into style. So here now, look at that. We've torn the mask. The indentation is much lower. It's much lower on this profile than it was earlier. The indentation was happening here and then sliding here and then giving us a jetted out. Okay, but Todd is absolutely going for more realism here. And the one thing I loved when he did this, I mean, this looks like glass that has been broken into shards, but it's costume. This is a costume fabric. But it looks cool and it invokes emotion. It invokes battle damage. This invokes battle damage. People, that's why Todd was a favorite. That's why people love this stuff, because he played with the laws of cartooning, of which, wait for it, there are no laws. We're just having a good time. We're just having a great time. And we're trying to be, again, another shot of Mary Jane. The human anatomy of the face is completely realized here. It's completely realized here. But when the mask goes on, as we've shown you, the nose tends to somewhat get. I already said liquefy, and I'm going to stick by that. It tends to get a little bit liquefied. Okay, so we are absolutely just trying to examine. Again, in this shot, where's the nose? Where's the nose indentation? This is back to what Ditko established. This is more on the Ditko model, except the eyes are bigger, and I loved what Todd did with the big eyes. And in fact, I emulated that, and I had seen Art Adams do it prior to that. So once again here, if you look at this cool shot, the bridge of the nose would literally be up here. If the indentation were to be right, the bridge of the nose is I mean, it's a push-up, but why would it be pushing up when the mask is pushing down? It wouldn't. Yes, art police, we understand the laws of how things work, but we don't care. We want to do cool shit. Jack Kirby did not live and die by the art police. And other people such as Neil Adams wrote essays about how he didn't understand Jack Kirby at first. He didn't understand some of the incredible dynamics that he was introducing with the figures, because it didn't seem like it could work towards him and it wasn't rendered in a realistic notion. But over time, he realized that he was looking at all the wrong stuff. And it was, in fact, the imagination, the style, the storytelling, the impact, the gestures that made Jack so incredible. And Jack knew exactly where to put his camera, baby. He could put his camera in a place that would depict and frame and crop a shot that would blow your mind. He knew exactly how to do it. He did it better than anybody. And do I believe that influenced some of Neil Adams' storytelling? I did. So Steve Ditko, Neil Adams, John Buscema. I'm going to get to John Buscema again one more time. The one thing that he and Neil did better than Kirby and Ditko, and I believe introduced Buscema was before Neil. Neil refined it. Is that Alex Raymond, Hal Foster, Andrew Loomis, and yes, even the great Frank Frazetta mastery of the human form and anatomy. You want it, you go there if you want it. John Buscema is not giving you this pose of Spider-Man. It's too, as Todd would say, wonky. Do you know what we like? We like wonky. We like Willy Wonky, okay? Give me the golden ticket. This is what I'm about. I'm about super cool, weird, cool stuff. Stuff that I can't see in a photo. Stuff that even animation would struggle to pull off, okay? So your fact is that John Buscema drew the perfect human form, and he could turn it. Early on, there was an art student at my church, and we had, some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Occasionally on the calendar, sometime, a couple times a year, your church will do like a cookout or a potluck meal for everybody. Well, we were having some sort of anniversary, some special thing. And at our church, we had the Kentucky Fried Chicken at Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's Berry Farm is an amusement park here. It's a great amusement park, great rides. I prefer them to almost all the other parks in the area. I don't count Magic Mountain. That is like almost a 2-hour drive for me, but I prefer the rides in Knott's to many of the rides at Disneyland in terms of thrills. Although obviously Disneyland is the more experiential of the theme parks. But Knott's Berry Farm, I think they still have the chicken restaurant where you get the fried chicken. The whole chicken menu is something that they've always celebrated there. Also, the jams, the jellies. Knott's has a very specific profile. I'm not going to get into the history of Knott's. Somebody in the comments is going to go, well, Rob, did you know these 100 facts about Knott's? The show's not about Knott's Berry Farm. Just doing a quick name drop fact check. Been going there since I was 5 years old. But we were having the Sunday, the church chicken dinner at the chicken restaurant. So we had reserved a hall, a room. A couple hundred people at the church had signed on, and we were all sitting there. And I had brought my sketchbook. I'm in junior high, and I'm sketching. And there was an art student who my sister knew, because my sister's 7 years older than I am. Fell more into that bracket. And he came over and he looked at one of these. I had a martial arts figure that I was drawing in the vein of Shang-Chi or Iron Fist. And he said to me, "Hey, that's pretty good. It's a pretty good drawing. Now, can you turn it sideways? Can you show me the back? Can you give me a 3D rendering of that figure and have it be consistent throughout every angle and depiction that you give?" And I'm like, I accept that challenge. I know what he's trying to tell me. He's trying to say you got to now, you'll know that you are on your way when you can turn that figure. You can shoot him from above, you can shoot him from below, bird's eye view, worm's eye view, straight on, and give the full, circumference of the figure. John Buscema was a master at the full circumference. At no point did his figures not have incredible weight and not hit every possible anatomically correct mark in regards to the twist and turn and the dynamics of the figure. His figures were more elegant, and there are some people who want a more elegant presentation. Jack Kirby, you could say, was more crude in his presentation of the line work and his presentation of the figure work. Whereas John Buscema was more elegant. Then Neil Adams came on top of it, what you would say as a John Buscema styled figure, and he rendered the crap out of it. And then what he did, and what Neil excelled at, was putting it in perspective and playing with foreshortening and doing stuff that artists really hadn't pushed to the limit. Neil was the foreshortening guy, all of the great, if I put my feet up here, I could put my feet up here and continue. The kicks, the jumps. Those were masters of the form, a more elegant figure drawing style. Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko both were cruder versions of that, but they all existed to excite us on the comic book page. So my Mount Rushmore, I've based on facts. The originators matter. The guys who introduced the tricks of the trade. Jack had his influences, of course he did, but if you see the stuff that Jack was doing in World War II circa his introduction with Joe Simon of Captain America, and you see his evolution through his monster comics and sci-fi comics, the stuff that he did with Wally Wood, all the way to, boom, the Marvel Age, and then watch his evolution in the Marvel Age, in every issue of the Fantastic Four, across that 100 plus issues that he did of Fantastic Four. You see his mastery of the form continues, but he always wants to leave room to do these insane dynamics. But Jack is 1,000% a master. Buscema is a master. Ditko is a master. Neil Adams is a master. And those guys are my Mount Rushmore, but they're not my favorite. My favorite is John Byrne, who took from all of them, who has pieces of all of them in him. And he also drew what I wanted and what I liked the most. John Byrne drew Wolverine, battling Wendigo, battling Hellfire Club, fighting Cyclops, battling Sauron, battling Proteus. John Byrne gave me the characters I loved in the ways that I loved them the most, He was drawing a Spider-Man that was mixing it up with the Steve Ditko rendition when he was doing Marvel Team Up, but he'd also then doing 2 issues with Havoc and with Thor that his Steve Ditko-esque Spider-Man was alongside Neil Adams rendered characters. He is on record as saying one of his favorite issues, it may be in the 60s, Marvel Team Up, Spider-Man and Thor. I actually own the cover of that, the original art that John Drew and Tom Palmer inked. And that he has said is one of his favorite jobs. It looks the way he thought it did. Tony DeZuniga, one of the international inkers, inked him and really brought a Neil Adams finish to it. And since Neil Adams introduced us to the Living Monolith, and those pages from Neil Adams' X-Men run were what John was looking at, and there are some very much pulled from shots there, stuff that you would say is very close to being homaged. Who cares? It looked cool to me. It looked cool to me. I got that probably when I was 10, and I thought it was the coolest comic. And John Byrne agreed, and it's the most reminiscent of Neil Adams, although the Spider-Man has kind of a Steve Ditko underpinning with Neil Adams finishes on it, because DeZuniga, per John's direction, brought this more Neil Adams rendered line on top of it. Tony DeZuniga would illustrate entire comics, entire Conan comics. He also, maybe the guy that he inked at least the most was Neil Adams. And I've mentioned before, he was the inker on Todd McFarlane's early Infinity Inc. work, INC Infinity Inc. It's the earliest Todd McFarlane stuff. And Todd was inking a couple covers, sneaking in some inks. And when he inked his covers, I'd see Art Adams and I'd see Perez influences. But when Tony DeZuniga inked him, he just completely overwhelmed him. And that was by design. The editors wanted to have a more finished up, embellished look than Todd was giving in that early age. And they hadn't given their way to understanding what Todd was doing yet. So they were mixing styles. And every penciler will tell you that he's been mixed with a style that he did not like. And that created an outcome that he could not have imagined because it was so far separate than what he put forth. So we always go back to these guys on my Mount Rushmore. Now, you're like, well, where's Frank Frazetta? Okay, Frank Frazetta, he of the $13 million Conan painting sale recently in Heritage Auctions. I don't put him as a comic book artist. He did comic books. I have every comic book that Frank Frazetta did. I have them in collections. I have them in landscape trade paperbacks. Frank Frazetta influenced everybody in the comics field, from Dave Stevens to Mike Mignola and everybody in between. But Frank Frazetta made his bones and is in the Hall of Fame as the greatest fantasy illustrator because of all the greatest fantasy illustrations that he did. His work was on book covers. He did Battlestar Galactica book covers when Battlestar Galactica was on TV, getting millions and millions of eyeballs with the most expensive television show that had been on air at the time. His covers were on Conan. They were on fantasy and sci-fi stories. Tons of Conan. I was just deluged with him when I would go to the bookstore when I was a kid. His paintings were everywhere. There were already calendars of Frank Frazetta with his sci-fi images. And Frank Frazetta ruled and was the king of the illustration, especially the fantasy illustration world. And some people would put that, and I think we would put that as looming over the comic book world. And when you get a record sale like a 13 million, and the painting that I had mentioned on my auction preview episode that I thought it was sitting at 400,000, I said that's going for $1 million. That went for $1 million. But it was the 13 million, and when I did the auction preview, I did not see that in my book. I don't know if the pages were glued together, but I had not. I don't have time to go through. I know my friends go through every single listing online. I do my best to flip through the catalog. The first Frazetta that caught my eye early on, like page 4 of the catalog, was the female painted character that I believed would jump from 400,000 to 7 figures. It did that. The 13 million is incredible. So, did Frank Frazetta also influence John Buscema? And was he also incorporating a ton of life drawing, a ton of Andrew Loomis, a ton of Alex Raymond, Hal Foster? Yes to all those things. But he lives in his own realm, in his own kingdom. I don't always associate him as a comic book artist, even though he did dabble and do comic book strips. And look, when it comes to pen and ink and rendering, I would put Frank above all these people. but the sheer vast amount of comic book art and comic book influence, because I'm going to count the characters and the looks of the characters. And when you, especially when you come to guys like Ditko and Kirby, and the fact that they designed the looks of Thor, of all of Asgard, of Odin, of Hercules, of Fandral, of Loki, of Sif, obviously Annihilus, Doctor Doom, the Frightful Four, the Fantastic Four. I mean, Thing alone, Hulk. I mean, we can keep going. The X-Men, the original X-Men, Magneto, the Brotherhood of Evil. You guys get it. You guys get it. Uh, it's phenomenal, and that's, I have to say, Omak, Commandy, the New Gods, Forever People, Mr. Miracle. I mean, Jack's influence of design is second to none. The next best guy is like 50 floors below him. Steve Ditko, he wins just on Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. That's it. He wins. But in terms of so in terms of character creation, that matters as well. On my Mount Rushmore, they are not my favorites, but I respect them and honor them and give them the top spots that they deserve, because without them, we don't get to my favorites. There is so much Neil Adams in so many guys that I dig. He is such a massive, incredible influence on the entire medium. And you can see his work from everybody from popular artists like Mike Grell to, again, maybe a more subversive delivery of him in John Byrne. But then when you get to guys who are imitating John Byrne, maybe they don't even know how much they are giving you a diluted version of Neil Adams. I covered a lot of the Jack Kirby guys whose influence has been there. And when you get influenced, and I am influenced by Jack Kirby, and I have done just completely overt Jack Kirby works and jobs, I am also incredibly influenced by Jack Kirby. I lean way more Jack towards Neil, because I believe that the guys who lean into drawing like Neil, the Tom Grinbergs and the Mike Nassers, and in many ways the Mike Grells, that they look like Neil. And so when I'm trying to establish a style, when I'm trying to stand out, I wanted to bring something else. I was certainly very overt when I was incorporating as much of the young Arthur Adams stuff that I liked into my earlier New Mutants. I welcome those comparisons. They're obvious. They are there intentionally. When you are on, there's a Yacht Rock documentary, and they showed how many different songs What a Fool Believed by the Doobie Brothers influence, because everybody wanted to capture that incredible song. And there's another favorite by Robbie Dupree, and he had a song called Steal Away, and they play them side by side so you can see how much Steal Away sounds like What a Fool Believes. And they even say, look what he's saying, steal away. He stole it away. Made me laugh out loud. Very funny. Both songs, I love them when they come on my Yacht Rock station. I'm bopping because I'm old, okay? And I'm in the radio, I'm in the car, and I'm bopping, okay? Because I don't care if they sound alike. And I can even go to Steve Winwood songs years later that sound like Robbie Dupree, that sounds like the Doobie Brothers, okay? So we always have influence. We have directors, we have artists that take from others, but my Mount Rushmore is there for a reason. So those are my facts. But my favorites, okay, and Michael Golden got a lot from Jack Kirby. You can see when he turns on the Jack Kirby in the middle of his Micronauts run, and he pivots away. Michael Golden lived in a world that he shared with Neil Adams. You can see it very, very obviously in his earliest DC work when he was doing stuff for the Batman family, his Man-Bat and his Batman stories, and then very overtly in early Micronauts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Apparently, somebody suggested in order to make his deadlines, he should look at a ton of Jack Kirby and see where Kirby kind of dilutes and gives you more with less information in order to speed him up and help him meet his deadlines. And you can immediately see the Jack Kirby in the figures, in the staging, in as I said, the cropping of the panels, but mostly in the way the figures are being positioned opposite each other, and the gestures and the fights. Neil Adams, Jack Kirby, alive and well in Mr. Michael Golden. Later on, Michael Golden plays a huge influence in Art Adams, who plays a huge influence in influencing myself, Todd McFarlane, and many others. Your favorite can be your favorite because you like the torques and the ticks. The one thing that John Byrne did to separate his work completely from making you think that you were looking at Neil Adams is the big anime eyes that he gave the women. And I've talked about this in multiple episodes across decades, but he definitely was looking at the Japanese anime at the time, and I was looking at anime at the time. I've talked about the UHF channel that carried Simba, the White Lion, that carried Battle of the Planets, that carried Ultraman, that carried Giant Robo. Uh, I was this is like late '70s stuff, okay, and I Star Blazers, all of this stuff, because a lot of that Star Blazer stuff, Spaceship Yamamoto, Battleship Yamamoto. I'm probably getting it wrong. I'll just call it Yamamoto. No, I didn't prepare to reference that before I came on here. Looking forward to those comments, giving me an entire history. That's the stuff that John Byrne was seeing, the big anime eyes. And he was incorporating that into his females. So he was blending, again, not just Jack Kirby and a Neil Adams base, but then putting other stuff. It created the ticks and the twerks that we dug so much. When he started inking himself, there's an all splash page issue of Marvel Fanfare, which was his last Hulk issue that didn't see print in the regular Hulk run. John is inking like Neil Adams. He is doing copious amounts of cross-hatching and rendering. So John Byrne is my favorite. I own more original art of John Byrne than any other artist. It's from Marvel Team Up. It's from the Champions. It's from X-Men. It's from Avengers. It's from Fantastic Four. I literally adore everything he did, but I respect that he pulled from the greats, the masters, the Mount Rushmore guys, in order to facilitate and get there in the first place. Okay, so as far as fact or favorites, we've covered a lot of those different aspects as to why somebody's, factually can state, well, I prefer this, and somebody else says, but my favorite is this, because we all have different tastes. My Mount Rushmore is based on all of this manner of criteria that I've shared with you. I said I'd get back to the Romita Sr. I hear you. Here's what I'm going to say. Whenever I list that, people go, I'd swap out fill in the blank for Romita Sr. Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I would not. This is not to diminish his artwork and his appeal and his ability and his talent, because he did great artwork. He's a tremendous talent. He is got a run of Spider-Man that to an entire generation, it is their favorite Spider-Man. I did an episode about friends of ours coming out of the pandemic. They brought us to a local show here in Fullerton. It was 3 years back. I bought the T-shirts. I tried to support it as best I could, but it was based on the introduction of the Kingpin into the Spider-Man comics that John Romita Sr. had drawn, Stan Lee had written, and all the artwork was Romita Sr. as it should be, since it was his story that he illustrated, this 3-part story where Spider-Man throws the costume in the trash. In the intermission, the guy who was a friend of my friend who brought us, he was probably 10, 12 years older. They know each other from performance and plays and different productions they put on, my friend and the guy who was doing this. And he came out and he said, all the art for this, the T-shirts, everything, I took from the greatest Spider-Man artist of all time. He says to my friend, Royce, John Romita Sr. And I just looked the other way because, John Romita Sr., this is going to be heresy, but it's my taste. These are my favorites. Would not make my top 5 favorite Spider-Man artists. And, but I respect that he's your number one and that you like him the most, but he is certainly not on my Mount Rushmore. I don't believe there's anything that he does that surpasses what Kirby brought to the table, Ditko brought to the table, Buscema brought to the table, or Neil Adams brought to the table. I would say, I would keep going. I would put all manner of artists above. But if that's your favorite, because that's what he is, I think he drew very pretty females. That's I think his Gwen Stacy renditions, whether he inked or illustrated, his Mary Jane, obviously very popular. There's no taking away. And his Spider-Man, when he followed Steve Ditko and per the instructions that Stan Lee gave him at the time early on for the first maybe 6 issues to look as much like Ditko as possible before blossoming into his own John Romita Sr. style. He reflected Ditko because they wanted to keep that consistency. But John Romita Sr.'s Spider-Man was the masthead, was the style guide for Spider-Man for years. But what you don't know is there was an extended period in the 2000s that Romita Sr.'s Spider-Man was taken off the checks, that he was on all the checks in the stationery, and Eric Larson, not Todd McFarlane, not John Byrne, not Mark Bagley, Eric Larson was on all of our checks. It was a kick. I know Eric got a kick out of it. Eric was replaced by Mickey Mouse. We now have Mickey Mouse. Yes, I still get paper checks, but it should be of historical note that Eric Larson was the Spider-Man that suddenly replaced the Romita Senior. So when the changeover happened, it wasn't even somebody who was even more popular than Eric in Todd McFarlane. Makes you wonder what was the thought process that went into this, because every artist has at least something that's clip artable, that falls into a clip art category that you can put on the masthead of the checks, as we were all getting. But the statement is that Ramita Sr. had been a figurehead, a momentous icon for the moment, but I just don't put him in a master class. And he certainly didn't draw my favorite. I wouldn't put him above John Byrne's Spider-Man, Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man, Steve Ditko's Spider-Man, Gil Kane's Spider-Man. There are multiple Spider-Man that I hold in higher regard. Eric Larson, I've talked about how much those Eric Larson issues, that Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson 2 to 3 year period is when Spider-Man was the most exciting to me, and he's never been better. But I acknowledge that my love for Spider-Man comes from Steve Ditko's incredible, creepy, yes, wonky rendition of him those first many years, those first 30 plus issues. So I'm not swapping out, and people would be like, they would argue with me, as people are known to do on social media, and that's fine. But I'm not swapping my guys out for Ramita Sr. I just don't believe that what he brings to the table surpasses any of them. And if I were to keep rehauling it, he just wouldn't make mine. If he's on yours, great. He's one of your favorites, and that's awesome. And let me tell you something before we pivot to another aspect of this, which is only going to lengthen the episode. I'm going to share with you guys some of where you weighed in your comments, because I did mention, I've got the glasses on now, I'm going to read these. I did mention to many of you guys, I have some friends, and first thing I asked when they made these comments to me, I said, do you listen to a lot of podcasts? And they said, no. I said, podcast junkies like myself, we love the long podcasts. We love the longer form podcasts. I listen to podcasts on politics, on music, on film, television, and I listen to podcasts on sports. And I love all of them that run longer. I love all of the ones that run longer. I love each and every one that runs over an hour, and many of them that I listen to run like into the 2.5 hours. Yes, do I listen to almost 3 hour? Do I listen to almost 3 hour podcasts? I do. I absolutely do. And it's funny because there are some people like they take issue with the length. And so I brought it to you guys. I wanted to know what you guys thought. And I think a lot of you guys do listen to a lot of podcasts. And again, when I listen to my sports podcast, my entertainment, my political, I listen to them while I work. I listen to them while I'm sorting in the garage. I listen to them while I'm driving up to LA for meetings or to the airport. I love a good long what do you call it? Podcast. And the thing is that so many of you weighed in, and it was like literally a no-brainer. The favoritism for the long podcast, as I asked you, what was overwhelming. I'm going to read it to you. J-Man77 says, I've listened to every podcast in full from day one. The length is totally fine. It feels natural. My personal opinion is I can listen to you talk comics all day. Thank you, J-Man. Another one says, thanks for the great episode. I got to say, I enjoy listening to everything that you have been talking about. Keep on keeping on, man. That's from Pure Comic Collector, wrote that on our YouTube. Let's see. Jimmy's Hoto says, listening to every single one from the beginning. Please never stop. Another comment says, if shorter videos means more, well, that'd be cool. I listen to your show while dropping off and picking up kids, taking them to hockey practice, games, etc. I love the long podcasts and videos. Those are nice. That was from Wasquawk, or Wagsquawk. Okay, Wagsquawk wrote that. Then another Vinny said, definitely enjoy longer videos than shorter videos. Nerdy Geeks Comics says, I listen to podcasts while working. I love the long form podcast. Great shows, Rob. And Chad Woodward said, long. The more content, the better. Thank you. Then finally, Campbell, 1654, wrote, love the longer content you're putting out. And he asked me about doing a show about other people in the comic book industry in long form videos. And again, I keep thinking it was overwhelmingly in favor of the longer videos, which I was going to do anyway. I wanted to hear what you have to say, but I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk, and I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you guys so much. Finally, T23790 says the longer shows are the best. I love the deep dive. So there you go. Case closed, settled. That's your comments. When you leave comments for the show, I'm going to read them. I'm going to incorporate them into the show. This was the middle of the show. More, maybe 2/3. We're definitely not at the end, because I am going to introduce into our fact or favorite. Because really, again, favorites come down to style, come down to preference. But are there master classes? I believe there are. There is a master class listing. And I'm going to really quickly get into this from my buddy. Now, if you're not buying everything Liam Sharp draws, look, you're missing out. Get out there. Get Liam Sharp's work. He's so fantastic. He's got an upcoming Spawn series. You should be grabbing that. He did a Conan, finally, this Conan story that I've been waiting for. He's done Green Lantern, he's done Brave and the Bold, he's done Wonder Woman. He did. I was introduced to him. Was it called Death's Head back in the day? Liam is incredibly talented. His own artwork leans into the Barry Windsor Smith kind of world. Beautiful faces, figures, rendering. Again, if you're not buying Liam Sharp's artwork, what are you doing with your life? Get on that. Correct that right now. Liamsharp. I love Liam. He very much expresses his thoughts, his opinions on his Facebook page. When I read this, I said, I'm going to respond to this on my show. This fits into what we're discussing today. Liam Sharp, again, a celebrated illustrator of the last 30 plus years, wrote in an extended post, does anyone else get tired of seeing people commenting on comic book work from the 1970s saying, nobody can do work like this anymore? I mean, nobody, really? He writes, I suspect that the real truth is that they just stopped buying comics and didn't bother to check out what is actually available. There are some astonishing artists working in our field. Let's not tar the entire lot of us with the same tired old brush. It's incredibly tedious and especially unhelpful in this current time, with artists sinking lower and lower in the estimation of the industry and the general populace. It really gets my goat. Uploading this as it's getting a lot of replies. Yes, I'm updating this as it's getting a lot of replies. He says, yes, I know it's all just nostalgia. The thing is, if we can't move on, we live in some imagined perfect bubble where everything was far more wonderful than at another time. And that never truly existed beyond the fact it encapsulates a moment of younger contentment. Then we are doomed to remain stuck in feedback loops of our own making. Sadly, it's clear in so many things these days and is causing a lot of our worldly issues. There are 232 comments on that. And let me tell you something. Liam, it's not nostalgia. It's your buddy Rob here, and I'm going to lean right into this. Liam, are you telling me that there's someone currently drawing comic books right now? Here's my response. When it's like no one is doing this. Liam, have you gotten the Neil Adams artist edition with his renditions of Batman, Superman, Deadman, Green Lantern, Man-Bat? Guys, Neil Adams operated at a level higher than everybody else. And that's just a fact. And if Liam, if you believe that there is someone who is teaching and pushing the envelope in terms of illustration on par and on the same level that Neil Adams was and did, share them with me. There isn't. You won't be able to do that. Similarly, the kind of work that Barry Windsor Smith was when he was coming out of the studio, and he did Red Nails. I have that artist edition. I have the giant 11 by 17 pages. I know the guy that has all the art and put it together and made it. And I've looked at those pages. They're astonishing in craft, in the application of the inks, in the style, in the technique. It pushed the envelope. It it pushed things further. Someone who does figure work and dynamics as well as Gil Kane, who became the cover editor for Marvel Comics in the 70s, who created all manner of memorable images from Giant Size X-Men #1 to Champions #1 to Defenders annuals and covers to multiple Conan covers, Spider-Man covers, his work on Spider-Man, the figure work that he did on Spider-Man, that John Romita Sr., who I think operated even better as a finisher and an embellisher over people like Gil Kane. Gil Kane figure work. Neil Adams figure work, faces, illustration, design, page design, layout. Again, the aforementioned John Buscema with the figure work. Liam, there are some great people, and I see them. And so much of what's going on, I think some of the guys who are doing it in the most imaginative and dynamic way is somebody like a Dan Mora, who has broken from the pack, who is about to do his incredible Transformers run, who's been doing all manner of DC Comics work. Look him up, check him out. I see him coming from a manga style, incorporating aspects of a lot of different guys. I think Dan Mora grabbed what Jorge Jimenez was doing on Batman, and he evolved it. I see that in the work. I think most of that line work is coming from guys such as J. Scott Campbell and Joe Madureira, who are working in that space in the first place. But so much of it reflects some of the manga. But do I believe that Dan Mora is operating on a master class? I already just covered what I believe master class invokes. I'm going to tell you the guy who comes closest to it, and he's been doing it for 25 years, because I'm going to answer the question that I'm giving to you. I think the best all-around illustrator, comic book sequential artist is Stuart Immonen. There's nothing that he does that isn't masterclass. His angles, his figure work, his faces, his lighting. He is a cut above every single. When I see him draw the X-Men or Captain America, or my personal favorite work that he did about 10 years ago on Star Wars, when they brought Star Wars back, he immediately followed John Cassidy's story arc. It is the most gorgeous art. Stuart Immonen operates at a master class. But when you say that there's others in there, Liam, I know you. When I look at these guys, Neil Adams' work humbles and humiliates me, as it should anybody who looks at it. He at his peak was just a class above everyone else. And the best many people could do was to imitate him. I have not seen somebody hit the industry with a tidal wave in the way that he did. His work on Batman, his work on Superman Muhammad Ali, the single best illustrated comic book ever of all time. Fight me. His work on the Green Lantern, on Dead Man. This stuff is just mind-blowingly awesome. And when you consider that it was done in the 60s and the 70s, it makes it even that more impressive. I don't go, oh man, Francis Ford Coppola, I love The Godfather so much because it's nostalgia. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. The nostalgia shit that's ridiculous. I don't believe that Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, his superior album, even better than Thriller, which broke him through to a different level. I don't listen when I listen and groove to Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, go, oh man, I only love this because of nostalgia. No, I love it because it makes my hips swing back and forth, my shoulders, it gets me in a groove, and I am listening to the incredible dense production that Quincy Jones brought to producing those seminal Michael Jackson tracks. That's not nostalgia. That's execution at the very top of the form. When I listen to Brian Wilson, when I listen to the work that he put forth with the Beach Boys on Pet Sounds, that's not nostalgia. That's excellence in execution. When I was just poring over these Todd McFarlane Spider-Man issues, and I was looking at the very intense way that he crafted Spider-Man and Lizard and their battle and the storytelling, is that 90s nostalgia? Now have I gone to 90s nostalgia instead of 70s nostalgia? No. Todd embraced Spider-Man on a visceral level, on where the emotions are on top of the page. When I look at the work that the art police sometimes come for, which is my pouches and big shoulder pads. Oh, there it is. There are like 30 action figures of this guy. Supposedly none of it's supposed to work. Oh, Rob just was a little kid and jammed all these things together. Looks cool, not nostalgia. Now we're back to looks cool. Maybe there's some stuff that looks cooler. I had a comic book store owner on my podcast. I've had Jimmy J, who retails comic books 24/7 online at his Frank and Sons shows that are open Wednesday Friday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. Then he's got his online. Then he's got his conventions. I talked to Mike Caden from Comics, Tunes, and Toys. They both adhered to something of a sameness, of a house style. That house style that everyone is referring to is based in kind of this manga styled animated cell look that is going around. Now, if there's someone that I'm missing that we can put at and debate on a master class level, I've already put Stuart Amon in there. He is a modern artist, but he really came. He has been in the combo business since the '90s and evolved to a master class storyteller draftsman. Who, yes, he also humbles me. I'm like, wow, this is a different gear of excellence. Okay, now, but maybe there are people who go, well, that stuff doesn't excite me. I look at a Stuart Amonin X-Men and I look at it and I see that it is absolutely anatomically correct. It is brilliantly lit. The storytelling is incredible. The way that he moves his camera and positions the figures and invokes drama and conflict. His page design is exciting, but there may be a whole bunch of people who go, but that doesn't excite me as much as Jim Lee's X-Men did because of the way that he drew the faces and the figures and the rendering and the gestures and the fighting and the action choreography that Jim brought. And then there are people who go, well, none of that makes me as excited as the John Byrne X-Men. Hi, that's me right here. That's not nostalgia. That is execution in craft. I will take this position against anyone who invokes it. It's on us, Liam, to create work that excites people and gives them an emotion that resonates. I had one guy, I won't say his name, but he said, Rob, I've heard you talk about this, about a sameness. On my Patreon, I have done podcasts that are only available to people on my Patreon level, and I go into much greater detail and depth in storytelling and inking. There's only about 6 episodes total, but they have been locked into my Patreon. I go into a lot more process and a lot more just kind of behind the curtain, making of the sausage type issues on those that I think the general public would probably be more bored by, but that is available on my Patreon. Look, somebody wrote me in response to those and said, Rob, the reason that everything is so samey, and this is a guy who's doing it, the editors have told us to draw like this guy. The guy that most people are being told to emulate is a guy who actually has some Stuart Amonin in his DNA, and that is Pepe Larraz, who is excellent. He is evolving at a rapid pace. But many of these guys are looking like Pepe Larraz clones without understanding that much of what made Pepe special was that he was taking from Travis Charest, from Olivier Coipel, and from Stuart Amonin himself. Again, we are talking about blending of influences. So, Liam, when you say, I'm tired of people saying that they celebrate excellence, that's what they're saying. The fact that it came out in the 70s does not make it nostalgia. And Liam, I think you're fantastic. I think people should buy your work, your Conan, your upcoming Spawn, and look and see. You are crafting work based on the masters. There's Mobius, there's John Buscema, there's Barry Windsor Smith. Also, when I go to masters, who out there who is operating right now that I'm missing today, right now in the marketplace, is operating on a master class that would teach me a brand new technique of, let's say, inking or rendering, like Joe Kubert, because it's not limited to Neil Adams and Barry Windsor Smith, 2 very distinct styles of rendering and cross-hatching and shading, as we like to call it. And the craft of the actual technique of the scrape of the crow quill or the brush line. Joe Kubert did it in an incredibly significant and unique way as well. And he taught a style of feathering and rendering and cross-hatching and lighting and distinct contour lines with his brush. Outlining the figure and putting thick to thins and different line weights to make that shoulder look more formidable or that thigh heavier. Tell me, Liam, where are they? What am I missing? Point me in that direction. I'd also say another master, one of the last masters that entered the field was Alex Ross, who didn't just take photos. That was kind of what he started doing. Again, going back to the, if you like it so much and you want a photo, take a picture of it. It'll last longer. Thank you, Pee Wee Herman. The blending of colors and styles that Alex has mastered. The what I have been more impressed by in the 2000s is that he is taking color theory and mixing bold colors and effects and different strokes and then different shots. putting that camera in even more challenging positions and pulling off stuff that is truly breathtaking. I think Alex is in a masterclass up there. Would I put him where Frank Frazetta is? Not yet. But again, I read this, and is anyone tired of this? That's like saying you shouldn't watch Jaws because it's not a master class in storytelling, because it is. I watched Jaws multiple times this summer, given the anniversary of it. And Steven Spielberg is putting on a master class. Zodiac, I think, came out in 2007. I watched it recently again with my wife. She hadn't seen it. I wanted her to watch it. And Dave Fincher is invoking, so that's 2007. Am I having 2007 nostalgia? Because Zodiac is filmed very much differently than Seven was, another masterpiece by Dave Fincher, and a little differently than Gone Girl. But in Gone Girl and in Zodiac, you can definitely see Dave Fincher leaning seriously, leaning all the way into Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock is a master storyteller director, another master of the craft. When I celebrate Alfred Hitchcock, it is not nostalgia. It is excellence. It is a celebration of excellence. So I just wanted to put a bow on that argument, and I can do it. I can do it intensely and still love you and still wish you all the best and still tell people to buy your work, because you are, in fact, incorporating many of the masters of the 70s that you are saying that you are tired of hearing people invoke. So just some food for thought. Get those Liam Sharp comics. Liam Sharp comics are worth having in your collection. They're beautiful. He draws great faces, great figures. He understands incredible rendering. Check out Liam Sharp's work. I am always up for a good debate and always up to go back and forth on a particular issue. This one I thought was worth injecting in, and it kind of fit in with today's fact or favorite, because often the facts don't support our favorites, but we like them anyway, right? That's it. Okay, this week, Batman, Deadpool. I'm going to tell you right now, this Ryan Stegman cover from my own, I put them all up on my website. We totaled the covers. I'm going to tell you right now, the Ryan Stegman cover was our most highest. My RobLiefeldCreations.com orders. We pulled them. You can't order them anymore. All you can do is visit our live stream, Whatnot. Follow me on Whatnot, Rob Liefeld. I am on Whatnot. I think the last time I looked, let me see. Let me see. I'm the Whatnot account. I'll show you what I look like. This is my profile. I'm holding it up. It says Rob Liefeld. I've got 23, just so you know, it's the 23,000 followers, the 5-star rating, and the nearly 22,000 items sold, 21,008 items. I'm sure by the end of this weekend, when we get all the stuff that we did on our recent show, we have five-star rating, 5,400 reviews. Our shipping is 1 day. It's all there. Whatnot keeps you accountable. We're accountable. We did a show getting the pre-orders in, but a lot of what was based on our website orders. Deadpool Batman, Ryan Stegman, this is the most popular cover that we sold, and we offered all of the general covers. Number 2 was this Scotty Young, brilliant. We have plenty of stock of these. We are going to bring what we have remaining to our Tuesday night. Tuesday, let me see, what is that? As you're listening to this on a Monday, it is the day after that. I'm going to go to shows. It is our September 16th show. We may have another one after that. We have an eBay show this week. We have an eBay show, I believe, that is on the 18th. Look for us. Look for all my online social promotions. I'm going to go through those with you in a minute. But our Whatnot, we are bringing. This is a sketch cover. I've only done 2 so far. This is my sketch cover. There are only X amount of these. If you think I'm going to be doing more than a dozen of these, you're crazy. They're going to be one of ones. Deadpool, Batman. Yes, your boy is credited. The creator of Deadpool is credited inside this comic. Of course, that is where I belong, right alongside the Batman creators. Deadpool, Batman, big book, possibly what I'm hearing, biggest book of the year. The Scotty Young, the Ryan Stegman, the logo. And yes, we even have a brief stock of this Frank Miller, these beautiful comics. I'm touching them very daintily as I show them to you in the camera. We have these. I'll be doing sketches on these, okay? We are bringing all of it to bear to our Whatnot shows this week, where our focus will be on Deadpool Batman, this seminal first time in 2 decades, a brand new, fresh new, maybe longer than that, but that a giant Marvel headliner is teaming up with a giant DC Comics headliner. Get excited. I think the chef's kiss in this, the Green Arrow, Daredevil by Kevin Smith and Adam Kubert is so unbelievably gorgeous. It's stupendous. It is, I think, the standout of this edition with all the other, the Jeff the Shark and the Crypto, great fun story as well. Grab Deadpool Batman. If you want him signed by the creator, you get to my whatnot. I'm on TikTok as Rob Liefeld. We have really poured a lot into that account, given the new social media crew that I've got headed by Mr. Scott, and Mr. Scott is crushing it. And TikTok, Rob Liefeld, Instagram, Rob Liefeld, blue check mark tells you that's me. On the platform formerly known as Twitter, X, Robert Liefeld, ROBERTLIEFELD, blue check mark, that's me. Robert Liefeld on X, at Rob Liefeld on Instagram, Rob Liefeld on TikTok, and on Whatnot, Rob Liefeld. I'm going to be promoting these shows, these eBay lives, my Whatnot live streams. I'm going to be promoting those pretty aggressively leading up to this. Again, I'm going to be doing sketches. We did remarks. I wish I had them to show you, but they're already being sent out. They're already being shipped, so people get them this week. We are super reliable when we do our live streams. We take your purchases and your love of the craft and your love of the comics and of the collectibles. We take them very seriously. That's why our marks are so high. Thank you for following me on Whatnot. Follow this show. Deadpool Batman is going to be a big deal this week. The only place I'll be appearing at the rest of the year is in New York Comic Con. I've got VIP packs up at robliefeldcreations.com. robliefeldcreations.com. That's my website. Google it. Go there. Get on the VIP list. Make sure that you're there. You're going to get front of the line seating, and then you're going to get an exclusive comic, an exclusive Youngblood cover, only available at the New York Comic Con that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else. It is only in that VIP pack. We also have a New York Comic Con exclusive that's not in the VIP pack. That's a general, completely different illustration. So we're making New York Comic Con a big deal, just like we made San Diego Comic Con. And San Diego Comic Con was our biggest San Diego Comic Con in a decade, in 10 years. We look to have the same results. Beyond Deadpool Batman and all of the Instagram at Rob Liefeld, Whatnot Rob Liefeld, TikTok Rob Liefeld, X, formerly known as Twitter, at Robert Liefeld. Beyond that, Youngblood is going through a massive push. 27 retail partners came forward to create 27 retail covers on top of the stuff that's going in the direct market. For those of you who are completists, or those of you who just like kick-ass art, you're going to see all the big names that are doing it. We're going to continue to do press releases, promote these stores, promote the people that believed in Youngblood, that had excitement for Youngblood. Youngblood is exciting. It blew me away when Image Comics told me that we had 27 retail editions coming out with all of these retail partners. I was completely blown away. Youngblood is coming first week in November. Do not miss it. It's going to press like this week, and this is like the second week of September, so we can get all the special editions, the foils, the CGC stuff that we have to sign in advance and get off to CGC so that it gets back in people's hands. We have got to get on all of this like as soon as possible. ASAP, baby. Stat. We are on it. Facebook has a group. It's called Rob Liefeld, Marvel, Extreme, and Beyond. Please go over, join that group. Myself, Terry Sala, S-A-L-A. We will click you on through. We talk all things comic books. Every episode of this show is giving its own dedicated post, so you can discuss and express what you're thinking about each and every episode that we drop. We talk about comics, covers, art police, auctions. All of the topics that we discuss here are discussed over in the Rob Liefeld Marvel Extreme and Beyond Facebook group. Rob Liefeld Marvel Extreme and Beyond Facebook group. We discuss them at length. We will look for you over there. We have a good time. We'd love to have you. So we got a busy week. Youngblood's going to press. All these incredible covers. All this retail support. I hope you guys are able to get the covers and the featuring the art and the images that you want. I hope you're able to get your Deadpool Batmans. If you don't, the Deadpool creator right here. I'm only appearing one place in person. I can't make it to Montana, to Idaho, to Chicago, to Northern California. I can't even get to San Diego. I can't get to Arizona. We are locked here doing work, doing podcasts, making comic books, and we're excited to get it to you. But I can't get out and make a lot of personal appearances, which is why you come to me via this portal that we have, again, like I said, over 22,000. If you count my website, it's like 26,000 items that we have gotten to you guys in the last 3 years. If you ordered something from the website, you'll always get a notification that it's going out. When it's going out, I'll give you a heads up. Sketch covers will be available on the eBay and the whatnot. Watch my social medias. I'll be blasting all of these out to you. Again, if you can tell that I am pumped and hyped, I am. I am pumped and I am hyped and I'm excited to share this. Deadpool Batman is a big, fun comic. You'll dig it. You'll love it. It's got some incredible standouts in there. Wow, what a fun show. Thank you for joining me. I hope we didn't go too long. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed all of the different subjects that we covered. I love talking comics. I love talking comics with you. I love talking the history of comics, the figures of comics, the people that created the stuff that is made into the video games and the movies and is exploited for all the greater good and all the greater gain. My Instagram accounts, my TikTok accounts, Rob Liefeld, the Rob Liefeld and the at Robert Liefeld X accounts. We are trying all sorts of new approaches and promotions and continue to follow us over there. Instagram is like my real life kind of video diary, sharing with you thoughts and feels and opinions and stuff on past, present, future events in my life in the world of comics and movies. Same for my Facebook, for my TikTok. Just enjoy looking out for you. Enjoy reading your replies, your mentions, responding to you, your DMs, your comments. Thank you. Thank you for interacting with me. This is so fun. I know that the world is spinning out of control. It certainly has seen to be really a tough several weeks. I watched a documentary on Charlie Sheen. We watched in real life as he was unraveling post Two and a Half Men. It was a tough watch, but my wife will tell you back then, 15 years ago, I couldn't take my eyes away from it. 14 years ago, whenever it was all spiraling out of control. In the commentary on his life, and he did have has had an incredible professional career from Platoon to Wall Street to even that momentous, an incredibly impactful appearance in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's in, Red Dawn. I mean, just so many great films. But Charlie Sheen, a quote that stood out for me is he said this: unflushed toilet of an existence that we are currently living in. And I'm like, man, I think that is probably where I would put society and all of the strife and the chaos. You guys, this week I wanted to go into my social media. I wanted to escape. I wanted to look at stuff that had comics and had movies and had film and just something to escape because I've been slamming it on the deadlines. And it was just chaos, anger, vitriol, everybody. And when I mean everybody, I'm emphasizing everybody. Angry, threatening, screaming, a lot of hate, a lot of anger. If I really dwell on it, it'll bring me to tears because we're just not built to process and to absorb all of the pain that is being expressed across the world. But what we can do is distract. I put my phone down. In the immediacy, I went, oh, I'm not doing this right now. I'm not going to partake in this. This is not making me feel better. And everything I just told you is online. So I'm at odds here. I'm saying, hey, come follow me on Instagram. But Instagram, there are people yelling and come follow me over on X and people are yelling and screaming, and follow me over here on TikTok where people are yelling and screaming. We all have to find our distractions. And eventually when I did re-embrace, I was just very more purposeful in what I sought out. But the world is crazy. It seems like we're in kind of a crash mode right now. But I hope the work that I do and the podcasts and these discussions are a distraction that can make you smile, put the focus on stuff that we like, give that escape from all the different burdens that we're experiencing because life is so heavy. Whether it's family stuff with friends, with family, with sons, daughters, wives, aunts, uncles, estrangements, maybe your work, the burden is crazy at work and the workload is breaking you. You guys step away. Step away. Don't let it break you. Get off the treadmill. Get some laughter. Get some warmth. Get some excitement. Get some love. Grab a coffee with a loved one. Engage with your friends. Have a great dinner. Have that milkshake. Have that piece of cake. Have that big giant slice of pizza. Have those 3 tacos. Get that Taco Bell Cantina chicken quesadilla. Get that Reese's Big Cup, okay? Get those tangy pickle Doritos. Just get to the couch, watch a game. Although for me, football, man, stresses me out. I get so stressed. So maybe that's not the option. Watch that streaming film. Read that book. Read that comic book. go look at some old comics. I go out, I pull out my long boxes, I look at my Defenders, my Fantastic Four, my X-Men, my Avengers, my Legion of Superheroes, my Justice Leagues, all my favorite books. Just take, it's okay to take some time and step away, and don't let the system break you, okay? I'm pulling for you. I'm reaching out. I am wishing you all the very best. And with two different boom, boom fist bumps into this Blue Yeti mic, I just wish the very best for you. I hope your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual well-being are where you need it to be, and we're pulling for you. We are pulling for you. Rob Liefeld is pulling for you. All of us are pulling for you, each other, lifting each other up. Take care of yourself. Stay out of trouble. Don't leave me behind. You know the deal. That's where I'll be. I'll see you again soon, because we most definitely, we absolutely, and inevitably, we are going to talk again real soon.